All right, welcome to episode 25 of The Expert and the Idiot. Today I'm joined by Dre Williams, aka the Snake Gawd. How you
What's
doing?
going on? Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. So what got you started in reptiles?
I had an older, well, I have an older brother. And when we lived at home, he always asked my mom for snakes. She's not going for it. She was terrified of snakes. So one day he actually just brings home a leopard gecko, and she didn't have a problem with it. So it was like we found a loophole. So I actually started off in bearded dragons. I was breeding bearded dragons back when I was like 14. So that's what kind of got me into reptiles, and then kind of went on to monitors, tegus, and things like that. And then once I moved out, lizards were fun. Love lizards, but they are a lot of work. A
Mm,
lot of work, a lot, especially when you're breeding. And I went to my local expo, and I looked at boas, blood pythons, and things like that. But the more research I did on the blood pythons, I felt like that was the snake for me. Definitely not something I would recommend for most people to start with, but it's my favorite species, so brought him home and haven't looked back.
what about your brother? Is he still into reptiles?
Not as much as I am, but he has a few. Not as many, but yeah, he has a few. He works a lot, so
Yeah. Is he big into snakes or is he still keeping lizards?
I want to say he's. I don't know if he has any lizards. I haven't been over to his house in a while. Actually, I know he has a red tail. I think that's like a red tail and a Nile monitor. Those might be the only two reptiles that I think he still has, because
Nice.
he's got three kids, so that keeps him busy too. So
Yeah. Your brother got the leopard gecko and then you got a blood python first. That was your first snake?
that was my first snake, but I mean that was years to come. My first ever reptile, regrettingly, was a green iguana. That was
Mm,
definitely my one purchase that I made without knowing anything about them, and that's why I try to urge people to research what their research before getting an animal, because I didn't research the animal. And then the store that I went to didn't know anything about them. They were like $14, and it was like, hey, here's this lizard. So I didn't know. I knew they were vegetarians. Didn't know they got this 6 foot. Didn't know that they had a nice little set of teeth on them either. But I feel like that's one of those things that kind of prompted me to want to do more research. It's definitely a learning experience, because I just jumped in head first. It was definitely an impulse buy at what, 16.
mm.
So knowing what I know now, if I could go back, definitely would have never happened. But that's why I kind of even started my social media, to try to really urge people. Because a lot of people that reach out to me, I'm like, look, you can reach out to as many people or reptile keepers as you want, but you have to make sure you are prepared for that, not just now, but the adult size. So that's really one thing I try to push on people, especially since I keep larger snakes, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, where'd you get that? You have an anaconda. Where'd you get it?" I'm like, I don't know if you want these problems. You might want to do a little more research before even thinking about getting a green or a yellow. But yeah, so mine was a green iguana, and then from there it started into bearded dragons.
Okay. And now you just brought up the green iguana. How big is, or I'm sorry, the green anaconda? How big is your
I have a yellow.
anaconda?
She's pushing almost 6 foot now.
Oh, okay.
Probably my feistiest snake. Not necessarily like, she's just very, very threatened for whatever reason. I used to be able to pull her out, but now she attacks my phone. So if I do pull her out, my phone's put away, because she seems fine. She doesn't stress out as much. I try to get video of her, but it's like if she sees my phone, she's like, "Oh no, you don't," and she'll just bite my phone for whatever reason. There is a video that I did on TikTok where she struck at my phone like 4 times. Like, she doesn't bite me as much anymore. Knock on wood on that one, because I do have to pull her out today and clean her enclosure. But for whatever reason, my phone sets her off, and she will just she. I tell people she strikes like a colubrid. Now colubrid's just 4 times in a row. That's how she is. But like
Wow.
I said, she's pushing like 6 foot, so she's getting bigger to where the bites are actually starting to hurt. So
Yeah.
I try to keep her as calm as possible. So I get her out with a snake hook. I do handle her, but she's just that one snake that's just like, nope.
Yeah.
But other than that, she's in great health. She eats, she sheds, she poops. Um, so I like keeping her here. Like it's not really the building I got is not really like a public place, but like I have family and friends come over, so she's just that snake that's as soon as you walk in the door, her enclosure's right there, and they're just like, "Is that an anaconda?" I'm like, "Yep," and she looks pretty cool. So I'm not one to get rid of it because it was too mean. I'm just like, nah. I mean, I knew what I was getting into, so it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, they kind of have that reputation too. Now, your blood python, he seems pretty laid back, pretty chill. Is that
Very,
the case?
very. He's very chill. I worked with him a lot since he was a hatchling, and the thing I really try to get people to understand is you cannot generalize snake care. Every snake species is different, and even within the species, every individual is different. So, most people um, will tell you, blood pythons are super defensive. They'll bite. They'll go crazy. And back when we were importing them in the '80s, that was true. And that's because we were dealing with a lot of wild caught specimens. But he's captive. Naturally, they do have a little bit more of an attitude. But if you train yourself on how to read their body language, and this goes for pretty much any snake. If you train yourself on how to read their body language and get it in your head that you don't have to get used to the snake, they have to get used to you, you will better understand the snake. And I think people just try to force it on the snake, and that's why they get bit. But I tried a few different things. So what I would do is I would sit on the floor in the reptile room, and I would just let him sit on my lap, and I would just scroll on my phone, not make a movement, just let him basically get used to my presence. So I would do that for about a week, and I would only do it for like 10 minutes. The one thing I do know about them, they do not like super long interactions, especially like as babies. So I would put him back after like 10 minutes. As long as he didn't strike, we're good to go. And then maybe that next week, I would put him on my lap, and then I would actually pet him. And then if he looked at me, I would just sit still. And then as he kind of looked away, I would pet him again. So it just kind of like each week I would up how close we got. There was one week I was actually wearing this hoodie, and I went to go play the PlayStation. I put him in the hoodie pocket, and he stayed in there the whole time. And I think just kind of those bonding moments, it really calms the snake, and it gets them used to you because he definitely was a striker. He struck at me a few times, never bit me, and I would say maybe that 8 month mark, I would say he was 100% comfortable with me, where I could actually reach in his enclosure and pet him. And I mean, he's 7 years old now. We've been going strong ever since. Big baby. I've done events with him. Kids have held him. So I'm fully confident. My blood python is definitely the chillest one out there. I've definitely seen some that are laid back, but he's for what people know him to be or know them to be, he's super laid back, and I take pride in that, considering most people are terrified of him. And it was my first snake, so very very laid back. Just take your time with him. Don't force it.
Yeah, when I was actually looking at getting a blood python, that's actually how I found your YouTube channel. Was you kind of
Oh, okay,
talking
okay.
about your experience with yours and everything, and
Mm.
walking through the care, and laying out a lot of facts, especially like about how frequently they poop, and
Yeah,
like,
that's always a hot topic because some people don't believe me, and I'm just like, yeah, it's as babies they poop regularly, but as adults, like the last time Kato pooped was February. So,
jeez.
but keep him a fresh bowl of water. And the one thing I do notice about him is when he's about to poop, he soaks in his water a lot more, and then it's literally like a pile of dog poop. I'm just like, Jesus, bro. And he eats jumbos. He eats jumbo rats now, so it's honestly, it's like Rettick poop in a compact snake. He poops almost as much as my 10 foot girl.
Wow. Now, when you feed him, I'm assuming that you just feed him a lot less than the other animals, right? Because they're less active.
Yeah, he eats every 2 to 3 weeks. It depends because I'll get jumbos and they don't really look like jumbos; they look like larger. So depending on the size of the rat and how big of a lump it leaves in them, that kind of usually tells me. But yeah, typically every 2 to 3 weeks for him. Um, the one thing, he does not eat in front of me at all. He does
Hmm.
not tongue feed. I literally have to. I feed him last because typically I usually have to turn off all the lights and leave the room. Then I'll come back in with like a flashlight, and he's usually like halfway done. But
He's one of those guys.
yeah, they're very private snakes, super terrestrial. So he's actually about to go. He's in like a it's not very awkward. It's like a 4x4, which is like a lot of ground room for him. But I'm about to put him in a 6x3.
Nice.
There's a little more room for him to stretch out, and he's gonna have all the trimming. So we're gonna do some like underground things where he can feel like he's underground. Definitely belly heat because they don't really come out to bask much, and I'm probably either do no display light, or if I do a display light, put it on the completely different side of the enclosure and probably get like the lowest dim because they are super private snakes and they
Mm,
don't. Right now, he's in the dark and he loves it. I
yeah.
haven't installed lights on these enclosures yet, but he loves it. So I feel like seeing your snake just do natural snake things in their enclosure kind of lets you know, like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but I really want to just give him more space and just kind of deck it out for him a little bit.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Your snake room's pretty impressive. When did you have that built?
Oh, thank you. I got the building in May, and then I bought the building, and there was work to be done for me to make it snake ready. So I had to the drywall. As you can see, there was definitely some mistakes made, as it was my first time doing that. But I was just like, you know what? I don't care. It's for housing snakes, and this is like my media wall, whatever. But so I did the drywall, did the painting, I did the floor. Um, and then I actually had my electrician come in and do the lights, and then he just installed my AC unit so I can run heat because it's getting pretty cold here. It's like when I woke up, this actually coming out here, it was like 42 degrees. So I set this to 80 and it keeps it around 79 in here, which is great. I don't want anybody getting too
Wow.
cold. And then, of course, everybody has their own heat sources, but I still want to keep the ambient up in the room just that way. If something were to happen to go out and I didn't know about it, or a thermostat to stop work, at least the room is still warm, then I can deal with it. But it was snake ready so I got it in May. It was snake ready probably like mid July. Um, Honestly, everyone always asks me like, what was the hardest part? The floor. That floor sucks. And
Really?
I did it backwards. I should have did the drywall first, then do the floor. Because when I did the drywall, all of that dust got on the fresh floor I just made,
Mm,
and then the tarp I had wasn't big enough. But the floor, because it's the floor where the vinyl where you put it in there and lock it in, and like the first two rows, I couldn't get them to lock in for anything, so I like tore it up like four times, and then finally, I just started whacking it, and I didn't care it was locking in, so I took the mallet and I only started whacking it because I was pissed, I was getting irritated, so I just started whacking it, and then we got to a point. So that took me about a day and a half, and then I just did everything else, and it was the dead of summer, so it was one of the hotter summers we had. Not to mention, I got the shed insulated on the walls and the floor and the door. So it was like 90 outside. It was like 104 in here.
damn.
So I was trying to prop the door open, and then I ended up getting a sinus infection. So it was a stressful process. But I'm like, no, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. But it was well worth the investment. I super happy with my purchase.
Hell
Definitely.
yeah. So what are the dimensions of the building?
So I got 10 by 16. 10 foot. Yeah, so 10 foot on the short wall, 16 foot on the long wall. Seeing now that it's in the yard, I definitely could have went like 20, 25 foot. But it's fine. I fit everything in here perfectly. Just enough room, honestly, so I can still the wall that's adjacent to me across the way where the big reticks are. They're in 6 foots right now, but I just ordered 8 foots for them. So they're going in. They're in 6x2s. They're going in 8x3.5s,
Nice.
which that's technically on the inside with the drywall and everything. I got like 9 foot, 9.5 feet to work with. So that 8 foot is just perfect, and that gives me just enough room to like use like a corner for like supplies or anything like that. Um, but the outer is 10x16.
Nice. How much did that set you back?
Whew, yeah. Honestly, the building wasn't too much. So the base price of the building was like 4,200, and then I added on insulation, so that put it at like 45, which wasn't bad. The help of a little bit of social media money, it's perfect. So but as far as how much I've spent on it total, probably up in like the 12 to 15K area because drywall. Obviously, I had to pay somebody to do the lighting, and then I had to pay somebody to do the AC, get materials and tools, and it was a lot. But it was, like I said, it's worth it because now, so where my snakes were before, my brother actually has he had a store. I don't know if it's still open or not. He had a store, and I was housing them there, and it just wasn't working out anymore. And I didn't, since it was public, I walked in a few times, but people were holding my snakes. I'm like, whoa, whoa, what is
Mm.
this? What is going on here? So and then there were, just too many people that had access to it. So having my own space, and it's at my house, it's in the backyard, it's at my house. So it's just, I'm out here 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm tired. It's part of the reason why I was late this morning because I was out here late cleaning cages and trying to get everything together, and I still didn't get it accomplished. So the dumpster is atrocious right now. I gotta dump it, and then I got some new cages came, so I was building those and just reorganizing and moving. So I haven't quite done a YouTube video on it, like a full walk around, because I'm still organizing. I'm in the middle of upgrades. There's cages that are leaving, cages that are coming, and I have a specific vision for where everything's going to be. Like I got most of the snakes in the snake racks ready to come out, but their enclosures aren't here yet. So I'm just trying to wait on those so I can get rid of the racks. And I'm kind of sad because both of these racks I built myself and they served their purpose. They did great, but it's time to upgrade to the PVCs. But yeah, it's quite the investment. Um, but well worth it. I got Wi-Fi installed in here because it's a metal building. I don't know
Nice.
what I was thinking getting metal, but it looks cool at least. So I ended up
Oh
having to get
yeah.
my own like Wi-Fi box in here. There's security cameras and everything, a couple outside as well. So just a lot of I tried to think about like a lot of things that I would want in my reptile room to make it easy. Um, and then it's fully automated, so I can control the entire shed from my phone. So that's the one thing that I do love. I'm definitely a techie person, and then I do travel to expos and everything, so I like to be able to, hey, what's the temperature in there? It looks a little cold outside. Do I need to up the heat? So I can do that from my phone. All the lights are on smart plugs, so they're on timers, and then I can check the cameras and everything. There's also a floodlight out there with a camera on it, so just makes it super easier to just let everything be efficient. And then even outside of that, I do have someone that can come and check on the snakes and everything for me as well when I'm not here. So
Oh
makes
yeah.
it a lot easier.
Yeah, I want to do the same thing eventually. I want to upgrade to a building and be able to control the temperature and everything, and I think it would be a better way to do it.
It's definitely the crazy part is this was never in my plans. My plan was I wanted to buy a house with a nice reptile room, but the housing market is kind of crazy. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work right now. So I just decided to save some of that money, and then I started just doing more social media. But I got to the point where I was like, I don't really have anywhere else to put the snakes, and I don't want to get rid of my snakes. So this was kind of like the last resort option, and it actually worked out better than I imagined. I mean, 'cause I looked at like thermal controlled, storage units and everything. And then you find out a lot when you're looking into stuff like that. And when they say climate controlled, it's not really climate controlled. It's just set at one temperature and that's it. So you can't control it. And I'm in Ohio to be exact. That temperature is like 40 degrees. I'm like, oh, heck no, that's way too cold for the snakes.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why it was just easy for me to kind of map this out. I mean, literally, I have like a notebook full of notes of things that I had to. I mean, it was just stuff that I thought about, and even when I got the building, there was stuff that I didn't think about, like pest control, which is why a lot of the enclosures are still on paper because I had to get the pest control under control. I didn't want any bugs getting into the bedding and breeding and things like so. It's just stuff that you don't think about, and you're like, oh snap, I didn't think about that.
Mm,
But got it under control now. So like I said, I'm just trying to get all the upgrades done, fresh bedding and everything, and we're getting
nice.
there.
So was that on a concrete slab? Did you have to have a slab put down and then they put the
So
building
I
on
didn't
it?
do a concrete slab, but it is leveled. We leveled it with bricks. So basically, my yard kind of is at like a slant. So the back is kind of in mid. It's literally like 4 or 5 inches off the ground. So it's literally like at a slant. So we just took some big pavers and just basically on three. So there's like right here on the side, the corner, and then in the middle, there's bricks leading up to support it. And then we did the same thing on the other side.
Nice. So where you're at in Ohio, it gets pretty cold. You get a lot of snow and everything.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, it's the snow isn't the problem. It's really honestly the temperature.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to hurry up and get this installed because when the summer it was way too hot and I was running everything on ambient. And me personally, I can deal with the heat. It's the cold that snakes can't come back from the cold. They can definitely come back from the heat. So in here, all I honestly had to do was just put an industrial fan, crack the windows, and it was perfectly fine. But the cold is a different ball game. So I was running a space heater on a timer, but obviously that's not the safest option, which is why it was on a timer. Can't run it 24 hours, but having the AC unit definitely 100% worth it. And I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry because I know last year was one of the colder summers we've had in a while. Just like this summer is one of the hotter summers we had in a while. Our summers normally aren't in the mid 90s. We're
Mm,
normally like high to mid 80s, but mid to high 90s, that's different for us.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't think 10 degrees makes a huge difference.
Oh,
But
hell yeah.
um the winter time we can get down to the single digits. So
Damn.
it's definitely imperative. That's why I had to have the floors and the walls and the ceiling insulated and the doors, just because I know. And I mean, I'm getting ready to next weekend seal the windows, put weather stripping on the door because it's just like I know what's to come. And basically the same thing I do to my house, I'm doing to the shed just to keep it warm.
Yeah, hell yeah. So how many snakes are you at? Like what, like how many?
Uh, Last time I counted, there were 25.
Okay.
But it should be, yeah, it's 25.
Now, are you more of like just a collector slash keeper, or do you have plans to breed?
I do have plans to breed. All of the breeding I do, I want they're like passion projects. So they're like species that I'm really like. These are some of my favorite species. So, I wanted to do blood pythons, but um, it's honestly I haven't found since he's full grown. Finding an adult female to me is just I'm just like, oh, it's okay. So my focus is going to be white lip pythons, pied berms, and IMG boas.
Nice. That's
But
awesome.
definitely not going to be cranking out massive clutches every single year. I'll probably maybe have a clutch and then go like 2 years. So I'm definitely more so leaning toward the hobbyist educator side of it, but I do want to just reproduce some of my favorite snakes and I do feel like it's a learning experience, at least for me. So definitely, I do want to go on the breeding journey too. I feel like that's when you learn more about the snakes because their habits can change. You know, when you have to do the temp drops and you have to cycle them and they go off feed and everything like that. So I definitely think it's an experience worth going on.
Yeah, hell yeah. How many you have two IMG boas, right?
I'm sorry.
You have two IMG boas?
Yeah, I am just pure IMG het hypo. Then I have an IMG Motley. So the
Nice.
IMG Motley is solid black. The IMG het hypo is your typical BCI boa, but he's just IMG, so you can still see some of that pattern.
He's got the red eyes, right?
Yeah, the IMG het hypo has red eyes. Yeah, that's the bigger one. Yeah, that's Sirius Black. Everybody loves that one.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that one.
I love the Motleys too. I have an IMG Motley, and I mean just the like pure black, just the whole
Yeah,
entire animal, the eyes, everything. It's wild.
absolutely.
Except for that one ventral scale, which is white.
Yeah, he's got that little kind of like how Mexican Black King snakes have it. He's got that little white little chin patch here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're man. When I first seen the IMG, I was like, oh wow, gotta have one of those. So when I was able to get one, I was ecstatic. Still am. Every
Yeah.
time I open the tub, especially like after he sheds, it's like you get a new snake every time they shed.
Yeah, 100%. So the white lips, have you started on that project? Do you have your white
Right.
lips?
No, I'm gonna start that next year right now because I just got the mail earlier this year. So I really wanted to get him habituated, get him used to everything. So I'm really just focused on growing them out for right now. And then I wanted the female to get a little more size. She's pushing like 5.5 foot. So I really want her to get a little more size as well. And then maybe next year is when I'll try to give it a go. I know definitely there's definitely some people that have done it obviously. So I've started reaching out to them, like just wondering what to look out for, what to do, what not to do, things like that.
Yeah. What does your family think of all this?
My at first, so my dad actually had snakes
Oh,
long
okay.
time ago before he met my mom, and she told him like, "Hey, if you want to get with me, you gotta get rid of the snakes." I was like, "Ah, you a sucker! I'm not getting rid of nothing." But, so he got rid of the snakes. But yeah, like he's my dad's from Detroit. They just he had like garters and just whatever he collect outside. But initially, my mom was terrified, and now like some of the events that I post, she's the one taking the picture. Like she couldn't even be in the same room with him before. Now she's the one taking the picture. I've taken pictures with her literally right here next to me, and I'm holding a snake. So she's definitely gotten better. She hasn't held one yet. I'm holding out for it. One day it's gonna happen, but I think now that they see that I'm serious about it, and I really, it's something I'm passionate about, and doing it on social media and everything, they definitely support. So like I said, even when I do events, they show up. Whether they have to or not, they're there. So um, whether they like it or not, I think the support means more than anything. So
Hell yeah, the fact that they're coming out, that's awesome.
absolutely.
Do they ever go in the snake shed?
Oh, my dad actually helped me with a lot of it. So yeah, he's been out here a lot. He's come out here and kind of like, hey, maybe try doing this, or try doing this. So my dad's out here. My mom, not so much, but not so much. She'll come out here and kind of stand by the door and like, okay, yeah, looks nice, but she's like, I know my boundaries. So
Yeah.
mhm.
That's awesome. So are you doing any kind of like community education or anything like that? Do you have any plans to do that?
Yeah. So I just did an event. I do this event every year. It's for the city, so it's like the police department, just different businesses, and it's kind of like basically to raise awareness for gun violence, basically. So I do that event all the time, but I do plan on like basically gearing up to pick up more educational events where I'm actually speaking. I've done a few of them. Once we get through so in the wintertime, I don't necessarily like taking my snakes out to travel just because it's too cold here. Um, but next year, spring, summer, that's my time. I definitely plan on maybe doing more schools, kids camps and things like that. I had quite a few to do this year, but like I would have people reach out to me like, "Hey, so this person's interested, or whatever," and then I don't hear from that person. So I mean, it kind of happens. But I definitely want to get more into it. I like seeing the fear leave people's eyes, especially when they thought they knew about something and then they don't truly know about it. Because anytime I'm holding a snake, the main question, it's to us, it's a silly question, but to them, it's just like, I really want to know. And they're like, why is the snake not biting you? And I'm just like, well, snake just don't want to bite you just because, it's just not how it works. Like you gotta understand your pit bull, your mastiff at home can do 10 times more damage than any snake can.
Oh
Unless it's
yeah.
venomous, then you got a problem. But for what I have, you gotta understand that big puppy that you play with, even from play fighting, I've seen worse scars than a snake bite. So that's why I try to tell people who want to get into snakes, you have to learn to read their body language. They'll give you plenty of warnings, but if you ignore it, then yeah, you're gonna get bit. So
What are you looking for when it comes to body language?
so with my snakes, so I know the habits of my snake. So like my berm, my female berm, she's my vocal one. She will hiss, and hiss, but she will not bite. So I tell people like, nope, that's just a way of communication. That's basically her acknowledging you're touching her. She's letting you know that she's like, okay, cool, cool, but don't do too much now. So now, typically, what I'm looking for is either no tongue flicks or slow tongue flicks. That right there is like, okay, something's triggering. So what I'll do is I'll either get in front of it, because when I let people hold my snakes, I'm never more than 2 feet away from them, just for that reason. Just because although I'm comfortable with them and I know my snakes, they're animals and I know anything can go wrong in a split second. Whether somebody comes up to them and squeezes their tail and I don't see it, or whatever the case may be, it's my job to make sure that you have a positive experience. So what I'm looking for, I'm looking for slow tongue flicks or no tongue flicks, because that lets me know they're uncomfortable. So typically what I'll do is I'll tell them to release the snake back to me, and then I'll put that particular snake back and we'll deal with another one. Or I just kind of see what they're looking at, because sometimes they'll just be focused on something that I don't see yet, and then the tongue flicks will start coming. I'm like, okay, you're cool. Or if their heads cocked back, then they're real still. We all know that one. Their heads cocked back, then they're real still. Okay, they're zeroing in on something. So that's why typically when I tell people, when you hold my snakes, do not touch it in that first third of the body. That's the business end. Typically, especially since again, since I have larger species, it's super easy. Just support the body. One hand here and one hand here, and you're good to go. Obviously, the larger snakes are gonna wrap around you. So with them, I don't put them around the neck. Just give me one shoulder, and they can wrap around your lower half. Just so if something happens, or if you feel like they squeeze too hard, because of course people without snakes feel like, oh, the snake's squeezing me. No, they're just holding on because that's how they. And it's a large snake. They're very very strong. But again, I'm right here, so that way it also makes it easier. So when I'm like, okay, when the snake is ready to be released, I take the top half, tell them to do a spin, the snake comes right off, and it's super simple, super easy. So it's just a process that I've gotten comfortable with, but also I have to make the people comfortable as well as make sure my snakes stay comfortable. So I really try to make sure that number one, I don't let anybody hold my snake and walk away. I don't care how much help I have. These are my snakes. So it's me that has the eye on them. Now I do have people that come and help me sometimes, which is fine, and I trust them to do everything. But I still feel like it's my job to even, also keep them safe. Because what if it's something they haven't seen before, and they're gonna open a tub and this snake has got his mouth open, and they're like, oh no, and so I, got to work around that as well. So just everything. And then snakes being in a new environment, snakes being around kids is a big one. Honestly, a lot of the times kids aren't the problem, it's the adults.
Yeah,
Because the kids will listen, the adults won't. So I've definitely had to have people removed from my events for not listening to my instruction, and doing what I don't want them to do to a snake. And it happens. So at the end of the day, keeping everybody safe, but my best interest is definitely for my snakes.
sure. Yeah, I always get really anxious when people approach me while I'm holding a snake, because I don't want them to get bit, and I
Right.
don't want them to have like a damaging experience,
Hmm.
where it could be a positive experience, and some people are overly confident, where they feel like they can go right up and, pet it on the head like a dog. And so, yeah, that's always my biggest fear, is like trying to get them away from doing that.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a lot of people where they truly just don't know. They're literally ignorant to the facts, and it's okay. But I'm definitely a facts over feeling. So how you feel isn't necessarily the truth. So if you want to hold my snake, we're gonna do this my way. And if you don't like that, then you're not holding my snake. So
Yeah.
even when I do the events, I have a like a board. I write down all my rules, like certain things to do, what not to do. You are required to use sanitizer before and after. Rub it in, make sure it's completely dry, and then typically I have tape on the floor. Do not pass that line. That's
Hmm.
the once you cross in here, you're in my comfort zone. If you cross in this comfort zone, you get sent to the back of the line. So it's
Nice.
just, of course, a lot of people think you're mean, but I'm just like, you don't understand. If you get bit by this snake, you guys are going to be upset at me. It's my job to make sure that doesn't happen. So you have to listen to me. Also, I don't work for anybody. These are my personal animals. So therefore, if you don't follow the instruction, then unfortunately, it's just not going to work. So I've definitely been, cussed out, whatever. I'm just like, okay, cool. It's not changing my mind. These are my animals, these are my rules, and they're not hard rules to follow. So if you are saying that you want to hold a snake, but you're doing everything in your power to cause, a ruckus and make a scene, then you can't hold the snake. Because if you drop my snake, I'm going to jail.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
gotta be careful with it. So that's why I typically always like the last event. I took my two biggest snakes because number one, the larger snakes are just kind of they're durable. Number one, but it's gonna be hard for you to just throw them because they're gonna cling to your body, and they're not striking crazy. Some of the smaller snakes, when they're still kind of in that juvenile stage, are just kind of just going crazy. They're a little wiry, and also that can turn people off, even if they're not biting. That's why I don't typically. That's why I got rid of the colubrids. I liked my colubrids, but I wanted to focus on more so just the larger constrictors. But fast moving snakes definitely can turn people off because people just assume, oh, he's trying to bite me. And I'm just like, no, it's just how they are. It just turns people off. So I like the large constrictors. They're easier to deal with, easier to work with, and I mean, of course, you're gonna draw in a crowd because they're big.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you do like Reptile Expos and like the city event and things like that?
I go to expos, but I don't take my animals too
Okay.
many germs and viruses to open your
Sure.
animals up to, and I've been to some pretty sketchy expos. Unfortunately, not all expos are the same. So like Tinley obviously is going to be even no matter how clean the expo is, I just don't want to take my animal. I'm in Ohio. I'm not going to drive all the way to Chicago just to show people my animal. That's a lot of stress on the animals just to show them. You want to see them, get on YouTube or Instagram or something. But I
Yeah.
don't. I only do like if I'm the only one with animals there. Because even before there was one expo I did, and there was the police canine unit there, and they wanted to set me up like across from them. I was just like, no, wait,
Mm.
they got to move or I got to move. So, and I explained, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's just safety. So, yeah, I don't take them to expos or anything like that. If it's not like, um, just like a program here, and I'm only doing locally, so yeah, I don't travel super crazy. I think the furthest I've traveled with them was maybe like an hour, and that was a summer camp. That was probably one of my bigger crowds, and that was like 250 kids,
Wow.
which it went surprisingly well. I was nervous because it was also my first reptile event.
Damn.
So I was like, well, I'm 32, so I was like 24 at that time. So it was
Wow.
quite a bit.
Damn. Yeah, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah, it
How old
was.
were they? Like all like the
They
whole
were like
span?
eight. The age range was 8 to 10.
Okay. So
So yeah,
they're pretty self-aware, pretty
Mhm.
well-mannered at that age, kind of a
And
little
it was
slower.
there were in at least in my at my event there were it was a it was mostly little boys. So of course, you're pulling. That's when I still had some of my monitors. I had a pretty large black throat. I had a Colombian, not the Argentine, but I had a Colombian Tegu. So, but when I pull out that black throat, he's like this, and everybody's like, "Whoa!" So you just hear all the whoas, and even afterwards, the ones that wanted to pet him or take pictures, I let them come up, and everything went great.
Yeah. What made you get out of monitors?
This I still have one actually. It's not a huge one, but I have coming eye monitor. So Mike's monitors, I got one from him. There in his coming eye, but the old world monitors, they just get massive, and that enclosure needs to be massive. and call me crazy, but I feel like a large snake enclosure is going to be a lot different than a large lizard enclosure. Like a large snake, you can put them in like an 8x3 and they'll be fine for a while. A lizard, they need everything. They need to climb. Because they're going to go up to the light if it's not tall enough. The snakes typically, and then you can get away with radiant heat panels. Most lizards don't want heat panels. They want basking bulbs. They want
Yeah.
huge water bowls. So it's just, I had three monitors. I had a white lip. I had the Colombian Tegu. And then I had a Savannah, and then I had a mangrove. So that black throat and that Savannah were the ones where I'm just like, man, I don't think I have room to do like at least at the time because I still lived at when I was still at my parents' house, and my reptiles were in my room. So I'm like, I don't have room to do two 8x4x4s in here.
Yeah.
So I think it's at that point where you got to start putting your ego aside and like, okay, is this ethical? Am I doing the right thing? So I did have to rehome them.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. I mean, I could never imagine keeping monitors anywhere outside of like, a state where you can keep them outside because of
Hmm.
their needs for an enclosure.
Yeah, and same thing with the Dwarf Cayman. A lot of people don't know. I haven't done a video on it yet, but I recently, earlier this year, had to get rid of the Dwarf Cayman for the same reason. So when I got the shed, um, this whole space I'm standing in was supposed to be her enclosure. So it's going to be from this wall to this wall, all enclosed in, half land, half water. But I wanted to move the snakes in first because I wanted to see how much room I had, and I wanted to make sure everything fit. And of course, when I got the snakes in here, I'm literally wall to wall in cages, and I was like, that's not going to work. And there's no room, there's no room in the room she was in at the time for me to build that enclosure. So again,
Yeah.
set the pride aside and do the right thing. So she went to a guy like an hour south of here who, um, he was breeding. Well, he was trying to breed Cayman. He had a male, and she was actually a female. So I was like, well, here you go. And he had like a barn, basically same concept at as a shed, but since he lived on a farm, he converted a barn into like an indoor gator farm, basically. So I was like,
Wow.
well, guess you're going to a good home. Can't be mad at that.
Yeah, yeah. So he has that facility all temperature controlled and everything.
Yeah, apparently I didn't know who he was, but apparently he's like, no, I don't do social media because, and he told me why. He was also keeping alligators, which alligators are illegal here. But I was like,
Oh, okay.
whatever, dude. But he said that the building's been up and running. So basically, it was like a huge, like 50-foot building, and he just sectioned it off for different enclosures. So I don't know if you've ever watched Primitive Predators on YouTube. It's like a Ryan and forgot the other guy's name, but they're down in Florida and they run like this big, crocodilian sanctuary. And they have like a greenhouse that they've sectioned off into enclosures for different types of crocodilians, and it's pretty sweet. So he showed
Huh.
me pictures and everything, and I was just like, "Oh, it's all yours."
So they're in Florida, you said?
Yeah, they're in Florida. Yep, I actually got to meet them when I was down there in Daytona last year. They were pretty cool. But yeah, they were primitive predators. They do a lot of crocodilian conservation. So that's where a lot of like some crocodilians who are kept like illegally or they're surrendered, a lot of them go there.
Right on. And so you had talked before about like keeping on paper right now because you're kind of like treating the your building for like pests and things like that. You plan on going full blown substrate for everything?
Yeah, I do. Like I have the substrate and everything. I'm just waiting on the enclosures. I don't want to put new substrate in these enclosures and then I gotta tear it back out anyway. But yeah, so I use just coconut. So either Pro Coco or Repti Chip is what I use. Just honestly depends on what's cheaper at the moment when I buy it. But I usually try to buy it in bulk. So I usually try to buy like 10 blocks or more at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, just because for some of this like the blood python, he gets a pretty thick layer. And then he also gets sphagnum moss like under his hide just for humidity. Um, but yeah, the paper is easier to clean, but it's a nuisance because you see everything. You
Yeah.
see everything, and then you got to cut it down to size and all that. So I'm just like, I'm over it. But
Seeing everything is probably a good thing, right? I mean, you see all
it
the
it is, but it isn't. Only for the reason like when I come in here and I'm just like, man, I just cleaned that yesterday, and it's just like now it looks dirty, and I'm just like, when you have large snakes like Cardi B is my biggest snake at the moment. I got some. I'm interested to see who's going to be my largest snake out of the cow Rettick, the green berm, and I have two more grow up Retticks as well. But Cardi's 10 foot, and I literally there was one day I pulled her out, put her in her bin, and I've scrubbed it down real good with the F10 corners. I'm real meticulous, so I took a toothbrush, scrubbing corners, everything, real good. Scrub down, wipe it down, and then I do another coat, scrubbing it down real good because I want to make because again since I'm on paper, I want to make sure there's nothing that's in here. Um, scrubbed her, bleached her water bowl, scrubbed it up real good, gave her some fresh water and everything like that. Fresh paper, boom, we're squared away. That was at like 6 p.m. the day before. Go through all the other cages, do the same thing. Come back in the next day. And so I don't know if you saw the little skits that I made when it's like when you walk in the snake room and you smell somebody's first. That was
oh yeah.
inspired by true events because it had just happened. So
Yeah.
I walk in and it hit me, and I look over at Cardi's enclosure, pile of poop this big. I was like, come on. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But so I had to pull her back, and then she retakes her nose. She smeared her tail through it. So I had to pull her back out and then soak her, scrub her tail, clean that up, and then go through the whole process over again. And then I come back in the next day and she peed. I'm just like, God.
I know.
So but again, it's one of those. I work from home, so I'm always out here, which is why that was the main reason that I got Wi-Fi out here because I work out here too,
Nice.
um, as well as being able to do podcasts and everything like that. So it all works out. It keeps me busy, but between her and the Anaconda, because the Anaconda destroys the water as soon as you put fresh water in there, and I don't know if you've heard that, but they are known for it, and they keep me busy. Everyone else is fine, but those two, oh, God.
Yeah. Now, what kind of retic is she, Cardi?
She is a lavender sunfire motley. Got her
How big?
from my
How,
buddy Justin Pikeline Pythons. So he
How
was
big
just
do you
moving a
plan
different
on her?
direction with his
How
collection, and he's wanted someone that would care for her. So he actually commented on one of the pictures because she's in the educational program, and he was like, so he saw pictures of her with our police department and everything, and he was like, man, he was super excited. So that made me feel good. But she's super sweet until it's feeding day because she eats pigs, and her food response is crazy.
nice. How big do you think she's going to end up being?
We'll see. We'll see. She's grown a little bit. I got her. What was it early last year? So once her 8 foot gets here, that's what I'm really willing to see. So she's going like an 8 by 3.5. And even then, if I get the space I want, her enclosure can be even bigger. So I'm not into the business of overfeeding. I know a lot of people want that super large snake real fast, and I don't plan on breeding retics. So um, slow and steady wins the race. A nice healthy regimen. So, but she and my biggest male. So she eats 4 pound pigs. My big male retic is about 8.5, 9 foot. He gets like 2.5 pound pigs. So they get those about every 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, nice slow growth
And
rate
then
there.
we jump between pigs and rabbits, and then every now and then, like if it's like an in between, I'll do like a little snack, like a jumbo rat. But I mean, both of them are like, okay, that was cool, but where's the food? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but just something to keep them, but just to give them a break from the big food because eating meals that large is a lot of energy being exuded, and I'm just like, I like to give them a break from it every now and then, just to kind of make sure they're good, but also give them a chance to clear out their system because constantly feeding a snake and then they constantly have to go to the bathroom can, definitely mess with their insides. So I like to give my snakes a moment, slow them down a little bit, just or go like an extra week or two. Make sure they, can get out everything from the last meal before feeding them again, just so nothing gets backed up. I don't want to deal with any prolapse or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I try to just keep that in mind. It's not something I do often, but maybe like 2, maybe 3 times a year. Like if I fed them like 3 or 4 big meals in a row, okay, cool. I'm gonna let you go a little bit longer. Make sure you got fresh water. Still pull you out. Give you your baths and everything like that. And typically, obviously, just like most things, Cardi definitely will let me know she's hungry because when I walk, so the door's on this wall, so when I walk in, her enclosure's on the far wall, and if her face is moving around that glass, she's like, okay, I'm hungry. And then she's usually pretty good at it, and that's the beautiful things about snakes in captivity. They're used to that schedule. So snakes in the wild obviously aren't used to that because they don't know when that schedule's coming. So she'll let you know when she's hungry, and she's not one of those like my green tree. That dude, if I could feed him every day, he would eat. But Cardi and even Django's typically 80% of the time in his hide in his enclosure. If he's hungry, half of his body's gonna be out. He's gonna be looking around like, okay, yeah, where's the food? So it's pretty easy. And then I keep everything scheduled. It's in my phone right now. I do want to get like a calendar or something where I can hang up. But I got my calendar set. I do like recurring events, and it's set for every 6 weeks or so. So makes
Nice.
it a little easier.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm gonna be this is my first winter that I'm going to try cutting my Argentine Boa off from feeding. So from like
Nice.
November to March, she's gonna just not eat.
I'm jealous you have an Argentine Boa. That was a beautiful snake.
Yeah, she's awesome. That I got her, and then I just got a pair of babies too. And
Nice.
yeah,
How do you how do you feel about the pink ones?
they're awesome. The Max Pink line.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome from Bob
Bob
Geyer.
Groyer,
Yeah,
Action Productions. Yeah. He's
yeah,
got some nice ones. I
yeah. They're
planned on getting one, and then I don't know what happened. I ended up not getting it, but I gotta get an Argentine and a Dumerals. Have to have them in my collection. Have to.
yeah, yeah. You're gonna need a bigger snake shed.
Yeah. Those Argentines get pretty big. They're gorgeous, gorgeous snakes.
Yeah, I was just talking to Owen McIntyre about Keith McPete's Argentines, and I think his are on the smaller side. He said, like 6, 7 foot, and they
Okay.
have smaller litters. But he feeds them very sparingly. He doesn't feed them a ton. I think that if you feed them a ton, they'll get huge, dude. I mean,
Yeah, I
just
mean, they're boas. I mean, they definitely got that potential. And I've seen some huge ones. I think the biggest Argentine I've ever seen was like 13.
Oh my
Female, of
God.
course. This was the first time I went to Tinley. There was a guy who had a pretty large one.
Yeah, and they get really just a thick body too. They get a very heavy body.
Yep.
So I don't want any part of that. I'm keeping mine. I'm going to try to keep mine smaller.
I don't mind if they get to it. I'm not gonna rush them to it. So, but obviously with time and age, I mean they're gonna get there naturally. That's why I don't understand how like I literally had somebody reach out to me because so Cardi B, she is my largest. She's 10 foot. She's 4 years old. She's 4 year old Rettick. Somebody's like she's too small, and I'm just like, what do you mean she's too small? And I'll entertain the question because obviously a lot of people don't even know how long I've been doing this. I've been at this since I was 14,
Yeah.
and I don't know everything, but I definitely know what I know, and I'm not a dummy, you know. So this guy was like, yeah, I got a Rettick. She's like 14 foot and she's two, and I'm just like, yeah, because you're overfeeding her, you're power feeding her. That's a no brainer. Like, how would you like if somebody was like shoving Big Macs down your throat every chance you got? You're not. Of course, they're gonna eat because they're snakes, but
Yeah.
that snake ain't gonna live to see 10.
No. Yeah. And yeah. How would you like it if somebody was giving you Big Macs all the time? Your brain might like it, but your body's not. Your body's not
Yeah,
going to like that.
it might feel good at the moment, but long term, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're doing the right thing. Slow and steady, like you said.
Yeah, like I said, I don't. The fact that I've been doing it for so long now, there's not really many that can sway my opinion, so I don't get bothered by stuff like I mean, being on social media in general, you're gonna have people that come after you because they have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. I just don't like how some people go about it. There's no need to attack other people. You can definitely deliver a message, and some people have tried to, change my mind, and I'll try to have a conversation, and then when they realize they're wrong, conversation goes left. So it's just like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, it's there's so many opinions and so many ways to do it the right way, right? I mean, like there is no like one right way, but if you're feeding your animal a ton and just trying to get them up to size to breed, that might serve that purpose, but are you doing the right thing for the animal? You know?
Right.
So yeah, I get that.
Yes.
So that Cardi was the one with the police officer in one of your recent
Yes.
pictures.
Yep.
Now, is she totally, do you trust her 100%, or do you have like a really good relationship with her where you know
Absolutely.
what she's up to and all that?
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I haven't had her super long, so Justin, he did a really good job with her. I mean, like even when I went over there to get her, she comes out and I'm petting her on the chin. She's just super chill. So that's why I even wanted to put her in the education room. So not all of my snakes are snakes I trust. They're good snakes, but I don't trust them around other people quite yet.
Sure.
So the ones that do the education program or events are the ones that I know that are going to give that person a good snake experience, and that's exactly what I want. So she's definitely one of those snakes, super chill, super laid back. Like I said, the only time where you see that other side is when she's hungry, and I typically do that like when there like are no events scheduled for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time. So if I know I'm feeding her, if I have an event in 3 weeks, let me feed her now because in 3 weeks she's not going to be hungry. She's going to be good, and by then that meal should be pretty much digested and out of her system, so we're good to go.
Yeah, so you're getting the best of all worlds then.
Mhm.
So did you know that officer? Do you know him personally?
Nope,
Okay.
nope. That was my first time meeting him. He said he had never held a snake before, and
Oh,
he
wow.
wanted to. And I mean, I was just like, I'm all about people facing their fears. I'm all about people getting a new perspective on things that they didn't know. So, absolutely, yep.
Yeah, he looked like a kid in a candy store. He looked
Yeah, he was
happy.
walking up to me. He said he was nervous, and then she literally wrapped herself around him, and her head was right here. And he was like, "Oh, she's chill." I was like, honestly, bro, I was like, just like with any other animal, once they understand that you are no longer a threat to them, you're not going to hurt them. They're fine. They're fine. So I was like, just think about when we domesticated dogs and things like that. I'm pretty sure nobody wants to talk about it, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of farmers and people that got pretty messed up a few times when they were trying to train those dogs.
Oh
It
yeah.
happens. It's part of the process. And then now, through just experience and generation, just look how far we come from having all these wild caught snakes to generations of different breedings to now a lot of these snakes that have these bad reputations are fine. My green tree python is super handleable. I don't
Mm.
even take him out, but if I go to grab his perch or go to grab his water, he'll come down. and I'll sit still because I'm just like, I don't know if he's about to bite me. I don't know what he's gonna do because obviously he thinks it's food, but he'll come down onto my hand. So I'm just like, oh, okay, my emerald tree boa, not nice. I actually been bit by him, and I can confirm those teeth do hurt. So
Oh damn. Was it a bite
mine
and
just,
wrap or was it defensive?
you said what?
Was it like a bite and wrap, like a food response, or was it defensive?
It was it wasn't quite a bite and wrap, but he didn't let go immediately. Like he held on for like 30 seconds, but he didn't wrap. So he was on the perch, and I just took his perch out because I wanted to spot clean real quick. And so the 3 foot that's sitting here is actually his enclosure. So the current enclosure is he can get me from any angle. And I didn't feel comfortable. So with him, I gotta like take the snake hook, put it in his way, grab the perch out, and I felt a slight pinch on my thumb, and he was literally trying to eat my thumb, like he was just
Oh.
swallowing my thumb, but he was biting the nail, so he couldn't
Ah.
penetrate. So I took the snake hook and like slowly slid him off my finger, and then that's when he came back and bit me like right here, and I was like, oh shit. And at that point, he wasn't, and he's still not big now, but he had just got his green color. He just got out of his neo colors. It was a pretty nice little pinch. I was like, Jesus Christ, that hurts. I was like, oh, we're gonna put you back.
Yeah.
So that's the last time I cleaned with him in my hand. Now I just put him in a tub,
Yeah.
take the whole perch out, put him in a holding bin, get it out the way.
So how do you keep them, like how is it different? What's the contrast between keeping green trees and emeralds versus like your reticks or your blood?
Um, I think the I mean honestly a lot of the difference is mostly just the size. I don't really have like an issue with like the husbandry or anything. Like although I keep the room at a certain temperature, each enclosure is set up to achieve what that particular snake needs. So like the green tree and the emerald, they had foggers, but when I moved in here they got, dismantled and everything. But they both got I got one 3 foot and I got another one coming, so both are getting 3 foots, and then they're gonna both get foggers. Whereas everyone else, I just kind of spray them down. But the temperature requirements are a little different for a few of the snakes. So like obviously the boa's like a little warmer, where the blood pythons like it a little cooler. So that's why like all the boas are on that side. Blood python, the white lips, they like it a little cooler as well. So they're all on this side. Um, that's why in the room I try to keep it around 76 to 78. Um, Obviously the colder outside it gets, it will have an effect on the room depending on how much air can get in. Just because I put weather stripping on the door, but I do see like a little crack that I missed, so I'm sure there's heat escaping there. But um, I don't feel like there's a and this is just my opinion. I don't think there's a big, huge difference, other than obviously the green tree and the emerald have perches, and everyone else just has a longer enclosure. Versus the lizards, the Gila monster and the beaded lizard. The beaded lizard has more of a climbing enclosure, whereas the Gila monster has more of kind of like a setup for like a deserty terrain where he can kind of go underground type. So I try to meet the physical needs of each enclosure, as well as like the heating and everything like that. But I feel like the green tree, and then obviously the anaconda, she needs a huge basin of water. But other than that, I don't think there's like a huge drastic difference as far as keeping. Hope I answered that right.
Well, yeah. So what do you keep your blood pythons hotspot at?
His hot so blood pythons hate to be hot, and I learned that the hard way because a lot of people don't know is when you get a blood python and you take them home, and if you're keeping their hotspot at 90 and they're striking at you, yeah, they're too hot. They're letting you know they're irritated. So just like
Mhm.
if we're out in the summer and it's hot outside, you don't get irritated. So his hotspot, I keep it around 86.
Okay.
So I keep
Yeah,
it around
that's
86. I try to keep the ambient around 82 and then his cool size around like 76, 78. Um, and then they love that high humidity. They're native to Malaysia, so they live in swampy fields and farms and they wait for food to come by. And so just like with green trees, if they are too hot, they're gonna be irritated. So
mm.
I try to he's on heat tape. Belly heat, of course, that's his favorite. That's where he's sitting right now. So I try to just make sure I temp gun. I come through in here, and since all of the heat tape This is what's left over. All of the heat tape is brand new. So I'll come in here on the regular or like once a week and I'll just temp gun everything to make sure everything is matching the thermostat and everything like that. So but it works pretty good. I've kept him around 85, 86. Once I found out that 90 was too hot, which was like when he was a baby, so it was like 2 months in. I've kept him at like 80, 85, 86 ever since then, and we've never had any issues.
And that was, you've had him, you said, for 7 years?
Yeah.
Nice. And so he was pretty snappy when you kept him at 90.
Yeah, as a baby, naturally. Wasn't too intimidating. And I mean, I got pictures and videos on my phone of when I was like picking him up with gloves and everything like that. Because I didn't have a snake hook quite yet. But I mean, honestly, just working with him repeatedly, I'm just like, okay, he definitely calmed down to a point where it was like I could reach in there, give him head rubs, and he's like, okay, cool, this is nice. And then also a lot of that was because when I got him, he was eating live. So once I got him weaned onto the frozen, and we got him on a schedule, and we got him handled regularly. Because there's also, I get a lot of people that are like, you're supposed to move your snakes to feed them. I'm not doing that. That's gonna make them mean. No, it's not. If you are not handling your snakes regularly, and the only time you are going to their enclosure is to feed them, yes, that is gonna make them think you're food. That is where they associate with you with food. But on those days when you're not feeding them and their food's digested, you can still pull them out and handle them. They're not dumb. They know to differentiate the difference between a snake hook and the feeding tongs.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just don't understand that.
Do you recommend a hook for any keeper?
I recommend a hook for larger species specifically. I'm not saying you can't use them for ball pythons. Typically, most breeders are like, you don't need them, but it wouldn't hurt to have it on hand. If you ever get like a spicy male or female, you just want to have a tool to guide them. Boom. But I will say, if you're getting into, I'm gonna say constrictors specifically, and you're new to it, then yes, I would say start with a hook until you find your level. Me personally, my larger constrictors, I'm very, very comfortable, but I'm using a hook just because they have such a large feeding response. And this is one of my serious hooks right here. So this is Cardi. This looks like a hockey puck, but since she's so heavy body, she's 10 foot. She's like 55 pounds.
Damn.
And this isn't something that I like lift her up with because it can hurt her ribs, but it's definitely something I'll put on her head and she'll shy away, and then I will kind of like use it to move her body towards me so I can reach her. And then she's trying to like go into the other side of my clutch and I just pull her out. So or like if I have her outside and there's people around, it's definitely just like a good tool to use to just guide them. Hey, don't go that way or go this way. So yeah, but I got, as you can see, different sizes, different kind. These are my feeding tongs. I have this one. This brand though, definitely my favorite. The Midwest Tongs brand.
Midwest.
Yeah, yeah. Love their hooks. I have an it's right here. And then this is the one I use the most. It's like the 3 foot one. So I just kind of reach in there, and then this is kind of like, I don't know. This is one of the first hooks I ever bought from my expo, and I still have it. So, but
nice.
It's one of those things where if you use the hook, it's not going to hurt. Like again, especially because at least I see it a lot. There's a lot of people who get snakes and then they're terrified to deal with it, and I'm just like, well, why would you get the snake? So go get you a snake hook, because that's going to at least create space between you and the snake, and it's going to keep you both safe, and it'll get you habituated with dealing with the snake. I said, but me personally, I would have got over my fear, or at least handled the snake a little bit at an expo to get over that initial fear before taking it home, because that's how you kind of create that rehoming, like, oh, he's striking, or. And 9 times out of 10, they're not really striking. They just make a movement they're unsure about, and then I got to rehome it. And it's just like, okay, but
yeah. So so you kind of use your hooks for tap training just to make sure that they're not in feed response and all that.
So berms, reticks, bloods, white lips. Green tree and emerald tree, not so much. I more so use it as a tool to protect myself. So if this is in front of their face and I got to reach in there for something, they're not going to be as inclined to strike at me because they're definitely food driven snakes. Um, the beaded lizard, he likes to bite everything. So if he's facing a certain way and I'm trying to grab him and I got my glove on, just to avoid him trying to, bite me. And I don't care if he bites me once I pick him up or bite the glove once I pick him up, but I just got to get to him. So I'll use this to kind of just like keep his head a certain way. So I mean, honestly, they work for a little bit of everything for me.
Yeah. What? So if you get bitten by the beaded lizard on your skin, what would happen? Have you ever had that happen?
So their venom isn't fatal, but it is very painful. Um, there's no anti venom for it, so going to the hospital is, in my opinion, at least kind of pointless. Because all they're gonna do is pump you with fluids, send you home, and slap you with a hospital bill. Same thing you can do at home.
Yeah.
So your best bet is to not get bit, but it's kind of like an extreme version of the flu.
Damn.
Basically, you're gonna get really sick. It's gonna be painful. Whatever area you get bit in, it's gonna be really hot for like a few days, like 48 to 72 hours. You're gonna experience throwing up, maybe diarrhea, and a fever. So
Oh, that
um,
sounds terrible.
yeah. So I definitely always glove up with the beaded lizard. The Gila monster, he's super chill. He's super laid back, but I still glove up with him at least when getting him out. Once he's out, he's fine.
That's cool. Now you don't ever take them to education, right? They're just
Too
pets.
much of a lie, but I don't even want to entertain that situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, obviously, like if I have my daughter or nieces and nephews, kids that I can control a little better, then I'll pull them out and show them from a distance, like, hey, this is what this is, cool, and they do fine. And I'll tell them like, so what I'll do is like in the summertime, they all sat in the grass, and I opened the door and did like a little presentation for them, and they loved it. So I'll do something like that for them, but in the public where people just do stuff, absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah. How do you transport all your snakes around?
Yeah, so I actually have an example of one right here. So I use tubs. And what I do is I like to have something soft for them to lay on, and I just put like I got these like little blankets from the Dollar Tree.
Hmm.
Um, so I just line it with this blanket. There's holes poked in the side so I can stack them if I need to, and they just lay there on the towel or the
Nice.
blanket, and that way if they do use the bathroom, I can just ball up the blanket and put it in a bag or something, and I'll wash it. Versus me having to take time away from the event, bleach water and paper towel down this tub because it stinks. So it's just easier
Yeah.
for me to deal with that way.
Yeah. Does that happen often, or do you usually have the feeding schedule and everything timed out
Yeah, I've
pretty
never had
well?
it happen. It's just one of those things that I think about that I know could happen. Because
Sure.
like my calorie tick. Oh man, like when I first got her, she's 16 months now. But when I first got her as a baby, all she would do is just pee. Like when I pick
Yeah.
her up, she would pee. So that's just an indicator that she's not used to me. She don't want to be handled yet. She don't like it. And snakes will do that when they want to get away from a predator. So now I don't have any problems.
Nice. How long did she do that for?
Like the first like 8 months.
Oh, geez.
So every time I would take her out, and I mean, typically you can tell when a snake's about to use the bathroom, but I'd be on like TikTok live and they love her. They're like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty, and I'm just showing her. And then one night I just felt it, but I didn't think about it. And I was just like, oh my god, and I look and it's all over my
uh,
arm. And it's just all white and yellow, and I was just like,
uh,
oh. And it was horrible. So I ended up having to like end the live, take the shirt off, go like, and that was when the snakes were at the other building, and that was like 10 minutes from here. So I had to like end the live, go home, like come home, take a shower, and it was, ugh. But she does a lot better now that she's comfortable. So I'm happy about that because that was I would take her out, and some days she wouldn't do it, but typically at least like if I took her out, so if I took her out like 2 to 3 times a week, typically one of those times she's is gonna whether she got it on me or the floor, it was gonna happen.
yeah. That's sad.
Yeah, it sucks.
How often do you do lives?
Right now, I'm not just because I'm trying to get all this other stuff done. But I was going live like 2 to 3 times a week. It's nice to. The reason I like going live on TikTok is because it's a whole new market of people that are still stunned by people that keep snakes.
Mm.
So, and then they ask actual serious questions like, "Oh my God, like how long have you been doing this?" Or "Is a snake gonna bite?" And I actually get there just kind of like how we're doing now, but I get to sit there and talk to them and actually educate them on things, but also show them like, "Oh, if this snake wanted to bite me, it will bite me." But again, once you bond with the snake or any animal for that matter, and they don't see you as a threat, you're fine. And I'll literally stroke the snake's chin, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's not that bad." So, and then a lot of people love to come back because they're just like, "I was scared of snakes, but now I'm interested." So
Mm.
my goal is to reach as many people as possible, whether that be physical or virtual.
Yeah, hell yeah. So how I see all the videos of you like the time lapse and all that, just like working in the snake room, and
Yeah,
how many hours a week do you put into cleaning and taking care of your animals?
cleaning is daily. As far as like a week, since I work from home, as far as like a week, I'm probably out here 25 to 30 hours a week. Whether it's cleaning, fixing up something, making content, I'm always out here, and that's the best part about having this building at my house now. Because before I would have to like wait on my break, pack everything up, all my camera equipment, all my camera gear, get there, and then I would clean cages. And by the time I got done cleaning cages, I'm pooped. I'm like, I don't even want to make any content. I'm tired. And
Yeah.
then I'm still on the clock, so I have to wait till my next break, come back home, do all this and do all that. So it was a lot. So now I'm out here like 25 to 30 hours. Whether, like I said, it's cleaning glass, pulling poop, fresh water, making content, soaking snakes, sweeping the floor, feeding, anything. Like I still got so many other things to do. Still got some leftover heat tape, so I think I'm gonna start replacing some of the old heat tape on some of the enclosures that I had. Um, but yeah, it's always something to do.
How often do you replace heat tape?
Me personally, I do every other year, especially since I have, this building is its own building, and it's not. It's I don't want anything to happen, so I'm always monitoring it. So I just like to refresh it, replace it, because there has been one time where on the rack, one of the levels stopped working, and I didn't know. And
Mm.
apparently, from when I moved the rack, it got scratched, so the heat wasn't passing through,
Oh,
and I didn't know. And then it's one day I was just like, I'm just gonna replace the tape. So I went and heat temped it, and it was only at like 60 degrees, and I was like, no wonder. Okay, so I just now it prompts me to make sure I check on that a lot more.
damn. Yeah.
So
So
I
I never thought about that until I was, because I haven't really used heat tape, and then I got a couple racks, and I was talking to Owen about that, and he was saying to replace it, and it never crossed my mind, honestly.
yeah, I mean, some people run it, just run it until it either goes out or it malfunctions. And I've seen, so many YouTube videos where people have had issues. And even then, we've seen some people in the hobby where they're like, oh, like they had a crazy fire and they lost half of their collection due
Mm.
to like some malfunction. It's not to say it's necessarily from heat tape, but I just try to, it's one of those things I try to stay on top of, just because we all put a lot of effort and time, into maintaining our collections. And unfortunately, that's one of those things where it's like you see it and you want to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. So it's like you have to kind of use someone else's experience as a lesson for you to make sure it doesn't happen for you
Yeah.
or happen to you. So yeah, I'm always all over it. I'm temp gunning. Even with this thermostat, I mean, I got digital thermometers laying around so I can try to keep track of everything. So I get a lot of, the question you originally asked me, I get a lot of people that always ask me like how often, or how often are you out here? And I'll tell people like 80% of what I do as a reptile keeper is maintaining. 20% is me actually dealing with the animals. Like that, the skits and everything, yeah, that's fun. That's probably maybe like one day out of the week. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like after I did all my cleaning and everything like that, I'll take one day where I'll make a plethora of videos and just spread it out. And people think, oh, this is fresh. No, that was made 2 weeks ago. But like that other 6 days, even if I just fed them the other 6 days, that's usually my day to focus on the shed. So take out the trash, I'll sweep the floor, I'll dust the cobwebs if there's any, I'll change my pest control strips around the thing, around the building, I'll dust off my lights, organize. There's always something to be done in here. So it's a process.
It's a job. Yeah.
If listen, if if I can trade my job in now and get paid to do this, absolutely in a heartbeat.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I mean, I got music out here. You know, like I said, I got Wi-Fi out here, so I've even eaten lunch out here a couple of times. It's just like my whole day is here. You know, so I mean, if why not?
Yeah. How often do you change water bowls?
So me personally, I know some people are like every other day. Me personally, I do every other day. Reason for that is I feel like I can the anaconda. Well, the anaconda definitely gets every day because she's usually peeing or pooping in it.
Hmm.
But I don't have an issue with like the water getting stagnant or getting that little filmy thing on top of it. And obviously, if you leave it too long, it will. So I do every other day. That way, it gives the snakes a chance to actually go in the water. Because some of my snakes, if I'm constantly in the enclosure, they won't bother it. So I do every other day, just to ensure that they have. Because some of them will get in the water at night,
Yeah.
and I don't like to fiddle in the enclosures too much to where they can't enjoy their time. And there's some people that still don't like it. I'm like, look, I get it, I understand. That's fine. But at the end of the day, they're hydrated and they have water. Now, I'm not going like Monday to Friday. Absolutely not. They need fresh water. So I do think leaving it overnight, I don't have an issue with. But more than that, now. So I do the anaconda every day, and I'll do the rest of the snakes every other day. Or if it happens before that other day, then I'll just go ahead and change it. Because there's
How many
nothing.
gallons? How
You
many
said what?
gallons? How many gallons does the anaconda have?
She's in like a 4 foot, so she has actually it's like a 3 gallon bucket in there.
Okay.
So she's actually got one of the 6 foots that's coming, and she's gonna get like an actual pond in there. So that I'm excited for. Can't wait. I just when you order those enclosures, they just take forever.
Yeah.
So
Who do
I
you
got
go
somebody
through?
local that's doing them, and I gotta go pick them up. And I don't know. He said he said it's probably gonna be after the holidays. I'm like, all right, man. So
Yeah.
because she's fine in the 4 foot. I mean, she's 6 foot, but she's not like a huge snake. She doesn't look 6 foot, but you know, I was able to measure her. She's right at like, well, she's 70 inches, 70 inches, like 3 centimeters. So I'm calling it 6 foot, but once she gets her 6 foot, I'll be able to actually put like an actual, it will probably be a like a cement mixing tub. I'll be able to line that in the enclosure so she can actually get in there. I really want to add a drain, but that'll probably be something that comes later. For now, I just want to get the enclosure in here and get it set up and get it done. But yeah,
So
for
how
now,
do
she
you
has like one of those like 3 gallon plastic bins that she can climb in and out of pretty easy.
how do you change that water out? Do you use a shop vac or do you kind of just lift it
I
out?
literally lift it and just dump it. Um, Summertime, I use the water hose. Wintertime, water comes out way too cold, so I'm actually designating an area to where I can just buy gallons of water jugs of purified water for them and be easier. That way, I don't have to. In the wintertime, if there's snow in the ground, I want to keep opening the door. So
Yeah.
I'd rather just come in here, have everything I need in here, clean, do everything I need, and then boom, I can lock the door and be out the way.
Yeah. Where do you clean your bowls at? Do you bring them back to the house or do you have a sink out there?
So there's no sink. So what I'll do is I have a tub, and basically I'll dump all the dirty water in that tub, get all the bowls scrubbed out and cleaned out, and then I'll set them aside. And then once that tub is like filled up, I'll go dump it, come back in here, finish wiping the bowls down, put them back, and then I'll just fill the water back up. So
Okay. What do you
I don't have
what
a sink in here. I wanted one, but I was just like, I don't want to push it. I don't want to push it. So I don't mind. It's as long as they have access to fresh, clean water, and everything like that. I'm not worried about it. So I designate like I could probably buy stock with how many of these I have. A lot of these laying around. I just keep it stacked up in the corner, so it's no thing for me to crack one of those open, dump all the water in there, scrub the bowls out, put the bowls back empty, and I just go through, get fresh water, and that's it. And honestly, that only takes me probably like for all the snake. Well, yeah, for all the snakes, probably takes me like 45 minutes.
Damn. Yeah. That's still a lot of time every other day.
But like I said, if I'm spending 10 hours on the clock every day, so it's like I'm here, you might as well do it, you know. So if I mm, if I still work in an office, then I would definitely have to figure out some type of different process. But since I'm here and I'm in management, so a lot of what I do is just overseeing what other people do. So a lot of the times it's slow. Like right now, it's slow, so I don't typically have much to do. So I'll just bring the laptop out here, turn it on, or turn the sound on if anybody does need to reach out to me, or they'll call my cell phone and just get to work.
Nice.
So it's also one of those things that kind of keeps me active because there was a moment where I would just be lazy and work from bed all day, and I'm just like, I can't keep doing that. So it definitely keeps me active, and it's one of those things I don't mind doing. So um, until I find something else or I find a new process, that's how we're gonna do it.
Hell yeah. So when you wipe down the bowls, are you wiping them down with anything, or are you just wiping them out?
So for the bowls, I use like a very diluted bleach water. So that's why I said I let them dry before I put water in them, but I make sure I wipe them down really good because some of the times like what's it my pied berm, he will pee in his water. So,
Mm,
and then sometimes like it'll get stuck on the bottom. So I'm just like, okay, cool. So I'll wipe that down. But also, I just want to just keep the germs to a minimum.
hell yeah.
Where I can disinfect, I'm gonna disinfect. So there's a lot of people I know who don't clean water bowls, and they'll just throw like a penny or something in there just
Mm,
to keep the gunk from getting on top because apparently copper keeps that from happening. In which I was like, okay, cool. We should probably still clean the bowl. I mean, over time from water being in there, it's still gonna incorporate germs. I mean, depending on the type of bowl you're using, but to each their own.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would think that would be very unsanitary. I mean, it would probably help with like buildup and scaling and everything, but
And then if you get in that situation, and then you look at your snake, you're like, oh, my snake has mouth rot, and you're like, well, yeah, that's
yeah,
probably where that came from.
yeah,
So,
100%. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
oh, absolutely, man. I appreciate the invite.
Where do you think you're going next? You're just gonna keep doing what you're doing and keep
Absolutely.
moving on?
I need to. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little congested. Now that I'm, in the building and everything's going where how I wanted to go, just get back on the social media thing. That's why I made the Facebook. My old Facebook, it was just giving me issues, so I deleted that one. I made the whole new Facebook because I really want to just get into, the social media and just kind of educate more, push out, as much more content, about snakes and reptiles in general as I can. So that's kind of my focus right now.
How do you put your videos together and edit everything? And where do you post first? Do you go to TikTok first and then Instagram, or how does that work? What's the process like?
So my Instagram and my Facebook are linked. So whatever I post on Instagram goes to Facebook. Instagram is kind of like the hub for all of my social media. That's where I throw out first. Um, because it's my oldest platform and it's for me the easiest platform for me to use. So I'll post on Instagram first. That goes automatically to Facebook, and then I'll probably post on TikTok. I try not to post the same thing though, because if I'm wanting people to follow me, I don't want them to go to a different platform and see the same thing, and they're like, "Well, why am I following you here?"
Hmm.
So every time I make a skit, it doesn't make it to Instagram. Sometimes it just
Okay.
sits on TikTok. As far as editing, like the things I do on TikTok, I don't edit those too much. The YouTube videos I use LumaFusion. That's what I use right now. That's actually what I've been using since I started YouTube in 2018. It's worked well for me so far. I do plan on, getting like Premiere Pro or something else. I don't want to pay that if I'm not consistently making the videos right now. So
Yeah.
that's something that's going to change soon. So I'm definitely just trying to level up and get back to where I was because there was a moment like during COVID, I was pushing out like 3 to 4 videos on YouTube weekly on top of Instagram content. So just trying to get back to that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, keep it up, man. I appreciated your YouTube videos and they were entertaining and informative. Especially you're very transparent. You talk about the lessons that you've learned
Absolutely.
and all that. And that's like you said, you learn from other people's mistakes. And I think that's one of the best parts about this hobby is figuring out how other people keep and learning from them.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that there's a lot of ego in the reptile world. Everybody tries to come in like they know it all. And I'm just like, no, nobody knows it all. We all had to learn from somewhere. And I'm like you said, I'm very transparent. I don't hide that. You know, I've definitely lost animals before because I started off and I just jumped in. I didn't know what I was doing. So
Mm,
if I can prevent other people from going through that, then I'll definitely do that. I'm not gonna gatekeep. It's not a competition. There's
yeah.
no huge prize for what we do. The prize is being able to deal with the animals. So I don't know. I don't know what some people get out of doing that. So I see certain things, and even if I don't comment on it, I know what I don't want to do. So that's the code that I stick to.
Have you ever had to deal with like snake mites or anything?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How have you dealt with that?
Uh, non-dish liquid is something I keep on hand now. Even now, I use that as like a regular monthly thing for my snakes. So, um, even if I don't have the snake, well, they don't have mites, but even though they don't have mites, it's a good preventative. And especially since this building, some of the bugs, get in. It's just something. It's like an extra benefit that I do for my snakes, to help prevent that, and it seems to be working. So we're gonna keep doing that because I actually like when people say you bathe your snakes. I'm not talking like I just sit them in a tub and then put the lid on. No, 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 no. I actually have a brush and I'm
Mm,
scrubbing the scales. A soft brush. Scrubbing the scales because I have a daughter. Just like when she takes the bath, got to clean her up. I do the same thing for the snakes. So they're sitting in dirt all day, or some of them sit in the same damp, wet spot, and it'll kind of get like a light stain on their underbelly. So I just don't want any type of bug, parasite, or anything grown and anything. So not only am I cleaning the enclosure, cleaning the snake, and like I said, that's like once a month. Outside of that, they get regular like soaks where they can hydrate themselves if needed, or just relax in water.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, it's something that they would do in nature, you
yeah.
know,
So outside of the Dawn dish liquid, I keep where's it at? Keep this on hand too.
prevent mite.
So a lot of what I do now is from things that I've gone through already, so I know to just have certain things on hand versus not having it. So it's just better to be prepared than to not be. So I'd rather be ready, so I ain't got to get ready. So that's just kind of how I go about it.
Yeah. Real quick, what would you recommend as like some snake room necessities? Like what has made your life easier?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on where you live. I'm in the Midwest, so we do get a lot of humidity, and obviously it gets cold. But snake room necessities definitely a huge trash can. I think that's something a lot of people overlook. I don't know if you can see a utility cart. So
Mm,
this is what like I keep like a lot of like the tubs on, or like if I'm feeding. There was a video, a picture I put up a while ago where I had like all the rats and mice laid out. A utility cart, um, and definitely like a rack for all your hooks and utensils. Those are probably like my top three. And then one thing that it's kind of a no brainer. I don't have it here yet, but I'm getting soon. A deep freezer.
oh
I mean,
yeah.
if you're feeding frozen thawed, if you're not, then I mean, hey, to each their own. But those are probably my top, and then this bad boy right here.
The mini split.
Yep, yep, yep.
How much did that cost to have put in?
Woo.
Too soon?
The unit itself was like 800.
Yeah.
So, and then paying someone to get it installed is a whole nother ball.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I said, it's worth it. That's something that I won't have to worry about for a while. Because again, it's not even running right now, and it's 81 in here.
Damn.
So it's which is weird. It's only 40 degrees outside, but that means the shed is maintaining temperature. So it's on a timer. I have it set up from my phone, the app. So I have it on a timer right now. So if it gets down to, if it gets down to 75, it'll kick back on.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, super super great because not having it installed, which like I said, the space heater that I have, it worked, but I don't trust running space heaters 24/7. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it works. Works good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dre. Thanks for
No
coming on,
problem,
man.
man.
I
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.